Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the LinkedIn Love. One. Let me try that again. Hang on. Welcome to the LinkedIn Lunch live stream. Good to see you all here this afternoon. Well, it's afternoon for me, but hopefully you guys are having a great day, having a great week so far. Coming off of a holiday weekend for many of us who are here in the United States, having Thanksgiving. A lot of people typically have Fridays off as well, and I do apologize. I was not able to jump on Saturday, which I was hoping to be able to do. I had some issues with the live streaming stuff, so hopefully everything's going well now. And let me know if so. So if you are watching live, jump in the chat, say hello. Let us know where you're watching from, if it's your first time or your first time in a long time, and um, just say hello. Feel free to jump into the conversation as we'll be going through. Awesome, 5x5, excellent. We're going to be going through some LinkedIn posts. I'm starting to get a little bit more variety, thankfully. It's not just all about finding jobs. So there's a little bit more things here. Some things, I think most of the things that I've got on here are things that I agree with this time. Sometimes I'll give find some things I disagree with just for fun. You have to have some sort of controversy or it's not as fun. So we're going to go with that. Moving forward, try to find some controversy and put that up as other videos, get some people to argue about it. That's how you get popular, is putting something up that makes people argue. So I don't know, that's not really my style typically, but we'll see. Anyway, thanks for joining us today, whether you're jumping in just now or jumping in later. Welcome, Mel, good to see you. I can't get past day 3 on Advent of Code. Will you cheer me up? I have seen Advent of Code before. I've never done it though. Like, I understand what you're talking about, but um, I've never actually tried it myself. I would probably be a little bit disappointed too, because as most of you know, I'm not as good of a dev as I should be after doing it this many years. So I don't know. I'll have to check it out and see. I do other things for Advent, but so code just doesn't usually top check into mine. But if you need me to, I can start writing some code, Mel, and that'll make you feel better because I'll probably screw something up extremely quickly. So maybe that'll help you out here. No, we'll be talking about a few things from LinkedIn this morning. Obviously, if you have questions, certainly feel free to throw them in the chat. I love answering the questions. I love interacting with you guys. Really, that's the whole point of this, is to interact with you all, not just to sit here and look at LinkedIn and share my opinions, although that is what we'll be doing. And just a reminder that these are my opinions based on my experiences. So if you disagree, tell me about it. Feel free to share your opinions as well, and we'll take a look at them, and I'll give you my opinion on your opinion. How does that sound? So, anyway, we'll jump in here. Let's see. We got some activity going on. What's going on? Yeah, Ian hasn't done Advent of Code. Well, just set it aside, Mel. Think happy thoughts, and then you can fly like Peter Pan. Okay, let me find the stuff here. As always, if you guys have any ideas for people that I should follow or posts that I should interact with, let me know. Send them to me. Probably in the Deb Enter Dave Discord server would be the best. And I forgot to tell people that I was live. Hang on one second. Let's open Discord. You guys don't care. For those of you watching later, you can fast forward. And of course, it's got to do updates, you know. Let's see. Come on, come on, come on. Where'd it go? I think it just died on me. Where's Discord? Come on. Oh, here it is. It's got to verify all the updates. Checking for more updates. Downloading 6 updates. Good grief. Thankfully, it's pretty quick. All right. Now we are popped in here. Let me jump on real fast. And just let everybody know. Announcements. At everyone. live now. Since it was too late. There we go. All right. Discord people have been notified. Sorry for the delay on that, guys. I usually try to do that earlier in the day, and I just completely forgot. I didn't have Discord open, so I didn't see it. So I need that visual reminder sometimes. All right. So if you're watching live, jump in the chat, say hello, join us on this journey through LinkedIn. Okay. So number one here, this is from David Marshall. I thought this was interesting, mostly because it kind of goes alongside with a lot of things that I've talked about when it comes to tutorials or even the work that you do on the side for learning, things like that. So here's what he says. Something I've preached to my students is utilizing previous projects as documentation. What does he mean by that? Well, he's telling us. What I mean by this is our curriculum was developed to build a foundation for learners. Okay, so they've got a specific curriculum that he teaches. I don't know anything about it, so I assume it's good if he's got success. So that's good. When it's time for the actual project, they should be able to review their lessons to accomplish their goals. This is important. I've found it because this is no different than your professional day-to-day experience. Sure, you may be responsible for creating new features, but largely you're not reinventing the wheel. That is very, very true. So one of the realities about writing code that people have to come to grips with is even if you're writing new features, you're not creating a bunch of stuff from scratch. You're building on top of things that you've built in the past, experiences that you've had in the past. You're writing, you're not inventing a new language most of the time, so you're kind of building with blocks that have already been created. And sometimes you can do that in large ways by actually using full features or full blocks of code from some other thing, or just reusing methods and things like that. Excuse me. But most of the time, you're not reinventing the wheel. You're not coming up with something that no one's ever seen before. And this is a good thing, actually, because that means that other people should be able to help you. That means you should be able to find information online to point you in the right direction if you get stuck someplace. But you're not probably coming up with something that no one's ever solved, even from just a logical standpoint. Thinking through the problem, you're probably not going to come up with a solution that nobody's ever thought of. The thing is, you're just doing it in a different application. This is one of the reasons why the better you get, the faster you move. Not necessarily because you type faster or because you know more. It's just that you've seen more, you've experienced more, and you can draw upon that experience. And that's really what he's talking about here, is in your day-to-day professional experience, you will have seen stuff and used stuff and built stuff that will help you, give you a head start on your project, or a certain aspect of your project, or your ticket, or whatever it is that you're working on. I mean, we do that in large part as a company as well. We're not using software that we've written for other people, but we have a knowledge base of information between all the different developers. And so we can jump into a project and get moving very, very quickly because we're familiar with our tools, we're familiar with the ideas and the concepts, and we can spin up a project very quickly with some basic pieces like authentication, user management, stuff like that that's very normal and basic to most applications. You can get a head start on because you just know what you're doing. What he's saying here is you want to treat your learning, treat your tests, or your previous work from the lessons, from the tutorials, things like that, treat those as a reservoir of knowledge. And I think that's a good way of looking at it, because I generally have a poor, or at least a low view of tutorials when it comes to junior developers, because there's this idea that tutorials are going to help you become a better coder. And they're not really. They're there to help you understand a certain concept, or to understand a certain utilization of a library or something like that. So they're not really, they're designed to help you be a better dev. being a better dev is then taking it that next step, right? So if we go back here and look at what he's saying, he says, instead, you should be able to look at the rest of the code base as a resource. That's exactly what I'm talking about, right? So you want to use it as a resource. However, this requires being able to recognize patterns, which also requires immersion and studying. And I think this is the part that people, again, when it comes to tutorials, people mess up. They think, well, I just do this tutorial and I know what I need to know from that tutorial. What you really need to do is take that tutorial, understand the concepts, and then try to apply that to something else, to an actual project that's dealing with a similar issue, and see how that works. See how you would implement it outside of the clear cut. This is how you use it, right? So that's really what he's talking about here. He's talking about understanding your code base and how it uses other functions and methods and things like that, and then knowing how to do the same thing in new stuff that you're writing because you know the code base and how it's put together, even the methods that are available to you. So all of that to say, tutorial hell is only hell if you're building something in immediately throwing. I can't read today. So let me try that again. All of that to say, tutorial hell is only hell if you're building something and immediately throwing it away. Instead, build something, and when you're building something else that utilizes the same concepts, use it as a resource. As long as you did it correctly, that's an important point to jump in there and remind you, make sure you did it right the first time. But yeah, it's not that those things are bad. And I know I've spoken poorly about tutorials in the past, but it's not that tutorials are bad. It's that people use them incorrectly. You think that it's a one and done thing, and really it should just be an opportunity for you to learn and maybe something to go back to help you do it again in a real world project. So definitely agree with that post. I think he hit it on the head. How you use tutorials is almost more important than the tutorials that you use. Yes, you definitely want tutorials that are on topic for what you're trying to learn and that are easy to teach you a specific concept or something like that. So you want good tutorials, but at the end of the day, how you use the tutorials is more important. If you're just one and done with tutorials and the code that you wrote from the tutorials, then you're probably not getting what you need to out of it. So good post there. Sorry. Spider-Man trumps Batman. I'm not much of a DC fan, honestly. I'm more of a Marvel fan. Sorry. In fact, I don't think I have any DC t-shirts. I have more Star Wars than anything, honestly, but I do have a couple of Marvel shirts. I think I've got a Captain America and a Spider-Man. So, sorry, Batman, you lose. Let me get caught up here. Go is similar to C. It's a compiled language. It's pretty fast. We actually have one project at work that's Golang. I'm not leading it. A smarter guy than I am is leading it, so that's a good thing. Batman DC forever. They need to figure out their movie problems. They're just not great movies. Okay. Not very good with pointers. Yep. All right, let's jump into another post here. In case we get really down in the weeds when it comes to DC versus versus Marvel. Okay, let's see. Here's another one here. This is from a career consultant. I've looked at some of her stuff before. Says this: I was doom scrolling TikTok last night. That's a problem, first and foremost. I don't even have TikTok. I mean, YouTube is bad enough when it comes to doom scrolling. I like between Facebook and YouTube. Yeah, I'm old. I'm on Facebook, but between Facebook and YouTube, that's plenty of doom scrolling for me. I can't add another app to something like that. I certainly don't have the Reddit app. There's no way I'm getting the Reddit app. I cannot go down that dark hole either. So there's that. All right. So doom scrolling on TikTok last night when I saw someone sharing this genius hack of white fonting your resume. Here's why that's the dumbest job strategy of 2024. For those who haven't seen it, white fonting is adding keywords and white text so humans can't see them, but AI can read them on your resume. That sounds pretty good. Back in the day, this used to be kind of a black hat technique for adding keywords for Google search and Google crawlers. So when they would crawl your website, people would do they would stuff a bunch of keywords in content that people couldn't see, but it was colored for the to match the background or whatever, and so you couldn't see what it was, or they'd use CSS to hide it in some way. But Google would index it. Thankfully, Google engineers are pretty smart and they figured that out after not too long. But so this strategy of white fonting has been around for many years for many purposes. It doesn't surprise me at all that this has come into the realm of resumes and job hunting. All right, for want to know what happens when you finally get that interview you tricked your way into? That right there is the key, right? So you have to explain your actual experience with real words to a real person. This is horrible grammatical punctuation, but whatever. You have to explain your actual experience with real words to a real person. No amount of hidden text will help you. Then. Here's what successful job seekers do instead. So I won't jump into that stuff mostly because I don't care at the moment. But yeah, so and this doesn't have to happen even on white fonting. So I think I've mentioned this before, but I had an experience years ago when this was actually at my first job. For some reason, I guess maybe because I ended up as a lead near the end, I had the opportunity to sit in on some interviews, and at one point we were looking to hire an Angular developer. This was back when Angular first came out. So this was like Angular 1. Yeah, Angular 2 wasn't out. It was Angular 1. So we were hiring an Angular 1 dev, which was just Angular at the time. And where we were looking to hire one. We ended up not hiring anybody. But long story short, somebody came in with a great resume, had Angular on there, had some things listed out about Angular. And of course, I didn't know Angular. We were looking for somebody that knew Angular, but I'd done a little bit of research, so I was somewhat familiar with how Angular worked and basic concepts of it and things like that. So we invited this person in for an interview, and they came into the office, and we started asking questions about their experience with Angular, and the answer that we kept getting was, I have knowledge of that. And this was somebody who was not a native English speaker. So kind of the first time that came out, it just kind of felt more like, well, maybe that's just an issue with, understanding or communication from an English standpoint. That's perfectly fine, right? I don't have a problem with that. I've worked with many developers from many areas around the world. I can generally work past issues with English, right? So I kind of ignored it at first. And we started trying to dig a little bit deeper and figure out, what all this person had actually done with Angular. And it turns out all that they did is they took a course about Angular, but they hadn't actually used it in any real world or even testing environment outside of just taking a course, learning a few things. And so when she was saying, I have knowledge of that, that's literally what she meant. She just had knowledge of it. She never actually used it in a real world situation. And so that's what they're talking about here when they're talking about white fonting, putting stuff on your resume to try to get past the AI and get an interview. At some point, you're going to have to explain yourself, even if you can bluff your way through the interview process, which that says more about the interview process than it does you. But even if you can bluff your way through that interview process and get the job, like, you are going to run into a brick wall somewhere. So always be honest. And I tell people this all the time, even in the interview process. If you don't know something, be honest about what you don't know, but be willing to learn it, and flip that around. And even if it's something that you are interested in, talk about things that you are starting to learn about it, or things that you want to learn about it, ways that you think it would be helpful to be a part of your skill set. Show a desire to learn new things. That may not get you the job, because they may be looking for somebody that actually knows that thing that they're asking about, but it will definitely give you a better reputation if you don't say, I have this on my resume, and then you walk in there and say, well, I don't really know it yet, but I want to, right? So A, don't lie on your resume. B, make sure that you are being honest in the interview, and be willing to learn new things, and tell them that you're willing to learn new things. I would assume most of the devs I've worked with have been willing to learn new things. It's kind of a requirement to be a developer, quite frankly, is the willingness and the desire to learn new things. So I would, if you're not interested in that, I don't know that development really is for you. I learn things almost every day, and I'm even in a position now where I don't do a lot of coding, because I'm in more of a management role these days. But even when I do coding, I'm still learning. Even when I'm not coding, I'm still learning new things about coding, just to try to stay up to date and make sure that, you know, I'm helping lead our teams the way that I need to, with knowledge. So yeah, don't try to get past the bots. And I understand that the bots are frustrating. AI sifting through people's resumes is frustrating. Things will get better over time, either with the AI or with AI not being used as much, because people are doing stuff like this to trick it, and so there's always going to be a back and forth in this process. So don't be that type of person that's trying to trick. So Ian says white fonting was around way before Google. It probably was. I just don't know of it. Well, Yahoo, I don't know. Things like that. Yeah, Mel says, talk to a real person who will remember you. That is something true. Like I was even talking to some coworkers the other day about people that I've interviewed in the past. You know, I've talked about some people that I've interviewed in the past here. We were talking about Perl, because we have a Perl project that we took over. And you know, I've only ever interviewed one person who was a strong Perl person. It was actually at that same company. We did a lot of weird hiring back then, but this person came in, he was pretty much a Perl developer. But there are things about him that I remember to this day, because I interact with him, because I saw him, because I actually talked to him and got to know him to some degree. So you definitely will have a bigger impact if you are a good person and interacting with them ethically, right? So Ian, does anyone have an opinion on Vue versus Angular versus React? My friend, you should not have asked that question. No, I'm just kidding. My opinion, not that you necessarily asked for mine, but my opinion is Angular opened the door and is way too complex for its own good. Well, it's kind of Google for you, but Angular is just really, really verbose. It's not necessarily bad. It's just it's got a much harder learning curve, in my opinion. However, I also learned the other two after that, and so for me, you have to it's kind of the chicken or the egg question, right? So do I know Vue and React better because I have Angular experience, or is it because they're just easier to learn? I think both are true, but I think Vue is the next one that I learned. It was much easier to learn Vue. It took me over a month to really feel comfortable in Angular, building things out. It took me less than a week to feel comfortable in Vue. React took me a couple weeks, mostly because I refused to learn it well because I didn't want to. I'm not a fan of JSX. Just putting that out there. But yeah, I'm a preference of Vue. So that it would be Vue, React, and that. I could do Angular if I had to, but it would just be Vue, React, and then Angular in that order for me. I just feel like Vue is the easiest to learn in my opinion. But I am looking for a project potentially to start trying out Laravel's. Well, it's not Laravel's, but the new Livewire setup with that Laravel uses. So, which is even more interesting because you're actually writing PHP, and then it transpiles it into JavaScript. So we'll see how that works. But I'm looking for a project to do that on still. So I haven't jumped into that. But Vue would be my choice out of all that. AstroTurfing rather than white fonting. Yeah, Mel says it feels like tools to increase your chances at getting an interview are being pushed a lot. I hear it's a numbers game a lot. Interviewers must really be annoyed with their time getting taken up. Yeah, um, it's hard because any something to keep in mind is that anytime that there's progress with technology, it's always going to be used, um, and not necessarily the best way every time. We do not use any sort of software like that, but we're also not hiring all the time, so we're a small firm. We're much more targeted in what we're hiring for and when we hire. But if you're dealing with large companies or you're dealing with recruiting companies, things like that are dealing with lots of different positions and people, they're going to grab onto anything that makes their job easier. And honestly, I mean, all of us do that. We all look for ways to make our jobs easier. Um, that's a good thing. We want to find ways to be more efficient because either we can work less or we can get more done. And that generally translates to more money most of the time. So uh, that's just my. I think you just have to accept the way that it is, but understand that not everybody's like that, right? So not everyone is using all the tools that make it easy to filter people out. There are a lot of smaller companies that are not doing that, and maybe that would be an opportunity to go someplace like that. So um, I would look around. I would look around. Did Batman leave because I'm wearing Spider Man? Let's see if he's still in here. Let's see. Yep, yep, yep. Pearl broke my heart. I've never written in it, honestly. Thankfully. Uh Yep, suffering always helps you learn something. Absolutely. Yeah, I do agree, Ian. I just think Vue is more straightforward in many things, especially now with the composition API. Um, I think it makes it more JavaScripty and less frameworky with that, if that's even words. So there you go. All right, let's look at something else here. Ah, yes, here we go. Okay. All right, from Harley Ferguson, he says most developers don't do a review of their code before making a pull request. This is a mistake and a massive time waster. Totally agree. In fact, I always do a code review on my code. Typically, here's the process that I'll typically go through. I will look at my code. I will typically do a diff in Git before I even commit it, before I even push it. Just to make sure that there's not obvious things like comments that I left in that I'll see before I even push up the commit. Things like that. Stuff that's obvious that I know shouldn't be in there. If I do a diff before I push, then that helps me catch a lot of those things ahead of time. The next thing that I do is I'll do a push to my branch, right? And then I go in and I do a pull request. I don't ever do like an automatic pull request. I always go in and manually create a pull request. And the reason for that is because then I get to look at things again before I actually submit the request. So I'll go in, I'll do the like, this is this branch into this branch, and it gives you all the diffs right there and shows you all the things. And I will typically at least glance through them, if not read through them completely. I'll look through everything that I've written because then you've got the highlighting again, even better than in the Git console. And so you've got the highlighting there on GitHub or Bitbucket or whatever you're using, and you can see the new things, the changed things, deleted things. So I'll just read through it real fast there one more time, just to make sure there's nothing, again, obvious. And then I will hit the create button for the PR. And then I'll go back and I'll just look at it again. Depending on who I'm working for and how the process is set up, a lot of times you'll then go and tag people to look at your pull request. So before I do that, I will go through again and just make sure, is there anything else that I see here that doesn't look right? Whether it's based on the standards that we have for our code, or it's just based on reading through the logic again. So I will typically at least look at it 2 or 3 times before I ask anybody to actually review this pull request. Most devs don't do that. And I'm not saying that I've been perfect at doing that. All right. That's just something I've learned to do myself over time. And typically, that helps catch a lot of the stupid things. Now, there's still times that I don't do it and I end up pushing bad code, and somebody calls me out on it, or I will do it and I'll still miss something. That does happen. So it's definitely not a perfect situation, but you have to take ownership over your own code. You have to take ownership of what you have developed, and I think there are some good steps here that he points out to do that. So he says, do this instead. Perform a sanity check. Just read through the whole thing, make sure everything makes sense. But then he says, poke holes in your logic. And again, I think this is a good thing. Go back through and reread it and say, does this make sense? Does this actually do the thing that I intend for it to do? Is my logic sound? Think through it again. Double check the flow works, or the workflow of the code. Does it actually progress the way that you think it will? And ensure that you followed conventions. Again, going back to what I just said a minute ago, does this match the way that we want to write code? Is there anything in here that's against the way that we typically require developers to write code? Especially for someone like me who isn't in the code every single day. It's easy to forget things. It's easy to just kind of try to sneak things through to get them done, because if I'm working on something, more than likely it's a hot fix or something like that. So there are situations where I need to make sure that I'm checking and making sure I'm following the conventions and the standards that we have as a company. One other thing that I would add to what he has here is add automated testing. And theoretically, your company is telling you to do that, and sometimes they simply won't let you do it. But that is another good way to make sure that your logic works, that it makes sense, is to write tests. Even if you can only write one test, even if it has to be a pretty high level test, write some tests to validate the way that you're thinking. Because sometimes you have to, when you write tests, you think of things from a different perspective, or you think of things kind of backwards from the way that you thought about them when you developed it. And so writing tests is a good way to point out things that you might not have thought of, or things that you may have missed when you wrote the function in the first place. It might work when you're testing it manually the way that you hope the user will do it, but there are often bugs or issues found when you write unit tests or automated tests that you just didn't think through. So I would add that too. Really, the ideal situation is that you'll have unit tests that run in your CI/CD process when you make a commit, when you make a pull request. A lot of companies aren't set up for that, and that's not necessarily wrong, but I would highly encourage any company to that's doing development to add tests to their process and to have those tests run in the CI/CD process on, GitHub or Bitbucket or GitLab or whatever other thing you're using out there. Um, because that's like a first line of defense. And maybe Harley's assuming that you're you're doing that already. I don't know, but that certainly for me is a first line of defense outside of just reading your own code and thinking through it again. Because just thinking through it again doesn't necessarily fix the problem, because you can still be stuck in the same thought process as when you wrote the code, especially if you're doing all this right after writing it. Another thing I might would say is take a break. So before you push the PR up, maybe switch to a different branch and start working on a different ticket if your company will allow you to do that. Get out of the mindset of what you just wrote. And then either come back the next day or an hour later or something like that. When you're out of the mindset, come back and look at that PR again and see if there's anything that you think differently about now. That's, he says take the extra time. That is part of taking the extra time, in my opinion. You've got to get out of the mindset you were in when you wrote the code sometimes in order to see the mistakes in the code that you wrote. So just some thoughts there. Let's see. Mel says, what do you do if you feel your code is off but can't figure out why? Do you push it and ask for a review? So these days, I would probably start with throwing it in something like Claude AI and just asking if it sees any issues or errors, or if there's a more efficient way to do something. Sometimes that'll point out some mistakes or some logical issues. But yeah, other than that, I would say, yeah, put it up for review. And I would just put in the review notes. Usually you have a comment section or a commit section. I would just put in the notes there, unsure about lines 423 to 427, open to suggestions or thoughts if there's a better way. Actually ask for feedback on the specific area that you're looking for. Don't just hope that they catch something. Actually ask for it, because we all see things that we like or don't like in other people's code, but depending on the situation, we either will say something or we won't say something. And so you might have somebody that just kind of looks through it, may not like it, but doesn't care enough to take the time to give you a better option, because it works or whatever. And so they'll just pass it, or you'll run into somebody who definitely wants to teach you their ways. But if you ask for it, the people that are not looking to take the extra time often will take the extra time, because they see somebody who's willing to learn and willing to grow and wants to do things better. So I would say, outside of using some sort of AI or something to evaluate it, I would absolutely put the PR up and specify where the things that you have concerns about. Because again, a PR is just a PR. It doesn't mean it's merged in yet. So it's an opportunity for you to still learn and grow in your knowledge and your understanding of how to be a developer, right? So that's how I would and have actually dealt with those situations in the past. Let's see. Nothing is foolproof. Absolutely. Um, a better fool will always come along. Excellent, Ian. Yeah, exactly. If you can, give yourself at least 24 hours before you review your code. Most companies aren't going to give you that kind of time unless they just have a big backlog of tickets for you to work on, and they don't have some rigid structure for when PR reviews have to be done. In an instance where they do have it really structured, I would just try to take an hour and go to lunch or something like that. If maybe try to time being done with it, right before you take a break of some sort, so that you can get out of that mindset. Think about something else. Watch a video. Do something that you're not going to be thinking about what you just wrote. But yeah, if you could get a whole day away from it and do something else in between that's going to make your brain not think about that specific problem, I would absolutely do that as much as you can. That's very true, Ian. Some people don't want you throwing code into Cloud AI. That's why, and again, especially for junior devs, I'm vacillating on this a lot lately because I've started using AI more, just for suggestions and things like that, and so I'm seeing more and more the value of it, especially for a senior developer or a mid-level developer. I still don't think junior developers should be using it very much, um, just because you need to understand the code that you're writing and why you wrote it. But that's a whole other topic. So I would still say junior developers probably shouldn't use Claude AI, but if you're going to do it anyway, that would be a time where I would do it. But yeah, some companies simply won't let you use something like that, especially when you're dealing with proprietary software, um, owned by that company or even client. You want to make sure whatever you put in there is fairly generic. Um, Snippets of code, excuse me, yawning today. Snippets of code are very generic typically, but you definitely want to make sure you're not putting anything up there that's gonna be proprietary, of course. Anyway, and I said Claude AI because I find, to me, that one's better than Chat GPT for code. There's probably something else out there that's better than that. If anybody has any suggestions, feel free to throw them out there. But that would be my suggestion if you're going to use some sort of AI anyway. Okay, let's see. This one made me laugh, so we're gonna look at this one here. Let's see. Okay. Let's look at the whole meme here first. It says, "Man returns to work after vacation with fresh, re-energized hatred for job." This this face, I have seen this face before. I do kind of wonder what he's doing on his computer. It doesn't look like code. It looks like some sort of document or something. But yeah, so man comes back from work with a fresh, re-energized hatred for his job. Let's see what the poster wrote. So, look, I'm not saying I do nothing but sip Mai Tais on the beach, hit the gym, trade assets, and hang with the family all day if given the option, but that's exactly what I'm saying. Obviously, it was pretty rough coming back to work on Monday. In fact, we had some people working on Friday, and oh man, sorry guys. I'm talking too much. I can't. My oxygen level can't keep up. We had a few people working on Friday, and it was hard for me to even just be available. I wasn't working full throttle on Friday. I worked for a couple hours maybe, but I was still trying to be available in case there were questions, things like that. So why did I bring this up? A lot of people tell you you should find a job that you enjoy, right? You should that should be the goal of your life, is finding a job that you enjoy. Because if you have a job that you enjoy, you won't feel like this guy does, back to a job that he hates, right? You have to find, if you really want to be successful, find a job that you enjoy. And on the surface, I think that is a great goal. There are some issues that I have with that. One is that you're probably going to find that your likes and dislikes change over time. Things you thought you were interested in before become things that you're not interested in anymore. You have new things that you want to pursue. So I'm not saying that that's a bad advice, but I think there's a little bit better advice. And that is not necessarily that you have to pursue or you should pursue something that you enjoy, but rather you should seek to enjoy something in what you do. Right? So don't just seek to do something you enjoy something in what you do. And I think it's really important that we come at it from that perspective, because a lot of people have to take jobs that are in industries or that are in doing things that they don't necessarily enjoy. If you can find joy in something that you do rather than do something that you enjoy, then you will be set up to be successful in and happy in almost any job that you could take. And that doesn't mean it's an easy thing to do. Okay, I'm not just saying, you're just a bad person if you can't find joy in something. It's difficult, but I think part of finding joy in something is finding purpose in it. If you are a trash collector, right? You can have joy and find purpose in being a trash collector. Maybe part of that purpose is in making sure that you are the type of worker who leaves the trash can in a way that you would like your trash can to be left. I've seen so many different people, leave trash cans in different ways. They'll just throw them back or leave them lying, down, or put them back where they were, nice and neat. I'll just be honest with you, as a consumer, it's very frustrating when you go out there or when you come back home. If you were out to work that day and you come back home and your trash can's lying in the street, maybe not all the way in the street, but it's just lying there. It just shows that the person doesn't really care about their job. They don't care about how their job is reflected on you as the customer. And so, but people who take the time and care, are they getting paid extra for it? No. But I can almost guarantee you they probably enjoy their job more because they have found some sort of purpose in it. Maybe you're even writing code and you come back to writing code and you're like, man, I really hate this job. There should be an aspect about that job that you enjoy and that gives you purpose, right? If you don't have a purpose in something, that would be a good reason to go find something else. But until you find something else, find a purpose in it. Even if it's just making somebody's day better, even if it's just looking for specific opportunities to learn something new, find a purpose, find a goal in whatever job you are in. Because unfortunately, not everyone can just quit their job and go do something that they enjoy, right? Like he mentions here, he's like, Mai Tais on the beach and hitting the gym and trading assets, hanging with family, that's not really a job. That's retirement. And unfortunately, there are not many jobs that have opportunities like that, unless you're like a travel blogger or something. Even then, there's the actual writing of the blog. And maybe there's probably a lot of travel bloggers that love the travel aspect, but they don't really necessarily like the writing aspect, but they do it because it's part of the job. But they still enjoy their job because of the things that they enjoy, because of the things that they find purpose in. Maybe they don't like the writing aspect, but they like telling people the things that they've discovered or learned about traveling, right? So find something in the job that you have that gives you purpose and meaning. It may not be a big thing. It may just be a small thing, but set your mind on that. Set your focus on that. And then I'm not saying don't look for jobs that are things that you like to do. I think that's a lofty goal. That's a great goal. I think it's awesome when you can find a job that gives you the opportunity to do that. But I think we have the problem of we've created this idea that a job that you enjoy is the holy grail, and that's the only thing that's going to bring us satisfaction. And really, satisfaction comes in fulfillment comes in finding joy in what you do, finding purpose in what you do, whether that's writing code or picking up the garbage or delivering pizzas or being a CEO of a multi-billion-dollar corporation or anything, right? So any job, there's an opportunity to find purpose in, whether that's helping other people in some way or learning something new, things like that. So find purpose, and then you will find joy in your life if you're pursuing the purpose. That's my 2 cents on this. But I did think it was funny. I saw this meme and I was just like, I have been there. I've worked with people who are there. There's even people who make millions of dollars. There are football players who don't really necessarily like the game. I assume they liked it at some point, but they're there for the paycheck. And that's just no fun. There's no fulfillment there. But they could if they would just get back to the joy of the game. I don't know. It's my thoughts. Let's see. There's some people talking here. What's going on? Holidays are a little weird. You go through the trouble to change your location only to come back and continue to do the thing you hated. Yeah. Again, I think you look for something to find joy in, rather than see it all as hated. Hmm. Sewing a pillow for your cat. That is one thing. I've had a cat in the past. I know a lot of developers have cats. I just I have no desire to have a cat ever again. I'm sorry. I have dogs. Dogs are much easier to take care of. Um, they're much more needy, but they're easier to take care of. So let's see. Good point, Mel. Changing your mindset is often more permanent than changing your life. That's a really good point. If you change the way that you think about something, that will last longer than your job, especially in this industry where most people only spend about 2 years at a job. And not necessarily for their own purposes, but often just because companies don't last very long, unfortunately, or they just go into layoffs and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely have much more, and that goes with you, right? So the job doesn't go with you, but your mindset goes with you when you think about how you view your job, and so when you go to the new job, it'll be easier to find something that you can be purposeful about and plug into, um, if you already have that mindset in the first place. That's true. Kittens are very cute, but they grow up way too fast, and then they become monsters, um, and they stink. That's the other thing. I'm not a fan of cats indoors and their smell. At least for most of the ones that I know and have seen. Um, yeah, so I'm definitely much more of a dog person. Let's see. We got about 5 minutes left. Is there anything else on here? This also made me laugh. We'll talk about this real fast. So, this post here, uh, decimal system 1 plus 1 equals 2. Binary system 1 plus 1 equals 10 or 1 0. Boolean algebra 1 plus 1 equals 1. Non-programmers confusion. I pulled this up again just to kind of remind us that we speak weird things, and we think oddly about stuff that people don't understand. Um, and so just be careful when you're talking to people that you're not getting this type of confused stare back. Yeah, exactly. True plus true equals true. That's the Boolean algebra. Good job, Mel. um, let's see. So he added a couple more here, which I thought were good. String addition. String 1 plus string 1 equals 11. It should technically be string 11. Um, string 1 minus 1 minus actual 1 equals 0. So yeah, two wrongs don't make a right. Exactly. So yeah, and we do think, oh, there was another one. Oh no, where was that one? Did I save that somewhere? Oh, there was another meme that I wanted to show you guys. Hang on real fast. Let me see. I can't find it. It was basically a picture of a set of stairs. Um but like literally the first step was at the floor level. Oh man, I have to see. Can I? Let me check my history. Hang on. History. Mm-mm-mm-mm. Oh, these are not descriptive. Yesterday, I think I saw it yesterday. There it is. I found it. Okay. I'm way too excited about this. Okay. Stairs should not start at index 0. That was a long time to wait for such a stupid meme, but I laughed for way too long at this uh, thing. The stairs should not start at index 0. I just thought that was hilarious. Um, like I don't know how you even do that. Like that's just so. It's almost like it's coming from below the ground, and they made the floor go all the way up to it or something. I don't know. It's just a funny. It just made me laugh a lot when I saw that. So I'll leave you with that today. There's your meme of the day. That stairs should not start at index 0. That just blows my mind how that it was even done. Just very, very odd. Because obviously it's got like that edge taping right here. And like, I don't know what that is specifically, but it obviously wraps under it, So it's like, there's something more to this than is actually, shown. Just fasten the stair tread to the floor. Yeah, exactly. But that is like the perfect. I think that's a perfect explanation though for index 0. Like this is a stair, but it's just here at the beginning. I don't know. Again, we have to remember that as developers, we think very oddly about things. And part of it's because we've been trained to think oddly. We've been trained to think that 0 is an item in an array, right? So they moved the floor to index 1. um, yeah, so I just thought that was hilarious. Hopefully you guys find it humorous, whether you're here watching live or watching this later on. Um, but yeah, I kind of wish I knew where this was, because I mean, it's obviously in some sort of, I think, corporate environment. I mean, just looking at the tile and then like this expansion joint. This is kind of weird. Like, this is really thin walls, so I don't know. I don't know. It was just a weird picture. I thought it was funny. Uh, so anyway, hope you enjoyed that. Find some joy in that if you don't have joy in your job. So stairs should not start at index 0. I don't know if that would make a good t-shirt or not. Oh yeah, yeah. I see. There are 10 types of people: those who understand binary and those who don't. Absolutely, absolutely. That is on a T-shirt for sure. I've seen that many times. Programming T-shirts are awesome. Some of them are dumb, but a lot of them are awesome, and they're great because most people don't have a clue what you're talking about, or what they're talking about. So go get you some programming T-shirts. I have a couple of programming T-shirts. My son, who is not a developer, actually bought me one. I've worn on here. It says roses are red, violets are blue, unexpected curly brace on line 32. He had no idea what that actually meant. But I did, and that's what matters. So, all right. Well, I'm going to let you go, guys, and get back to work. Hopefully you guys have a great day or evening, wherever you're located. And I will see you guys probably on Thursday. There's a chance I may not be on again on Saturday. We have something that I forgot about going on, but it may not happen. So I'll keep you guys posted when I know more. And yeah, so thanks for jumping in. Thanks for talking to me and sharing your experiences and ideas. And hopefully you have a great day. And I'll see you all on Thursday. Bye.